All right, let's jump into something I think is really cool.
Okay.
Chinese-Papuan communities.
Oh, yeah.
And I think when people think about that, they're probably thinking spices, maybe some like kind of residual colonialism,
Right.
but
It's way more than that.
oh, it's way more than that.
It's two ancient cultures coming together in a place most people have never even thought about.
And we're not just talking about like recent history. We have sources that go back centuries.
Yes.
And we're talking historical records, personal accounts,
Right.
even observations from naturalists like Alfred Russel Wallace. So it's like piecing together this hidden history, like antique plates with Chinese motifs in Papuan homes, family names that blend traditions, even like whispers of a political dynasty with Chinese roots.
Wow, yeah.
This is going way, way back.
Long before European colonialism.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, if you can picture the 7th century AD,
Okay.
the trade routes humming,
Yeah.
connecting the Srivijaya Empire, a huge maritime power, based in what's now Indonesia,
Okay.
to the shores of Papua.
So I'm picturing ships full of spices, you know, that classic image.
Yeah, spices were a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But the Chinese were also after more than just some flavor for their food.
What else?
Sea cucumbers,
Okay.
pearls,
Nice.
and get this, the bark of the mazoi tree.
Hold on, that what?
Mazoi tree.
What's that?
It's native to Papua, and the bark has been used in their traditional medicine for centuries.
Wow.
They would treat wounds, infections.
So we're not just talking luxury goods, we're talking practical stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It was about knowledge and resources moving across entire continents.
This is really like flipping the script, you know? Globalization, we think about that as a new thing.
Yeah.
But this is like, you know, ancient trade routes for the internet back then.
Right. Connecting cultures.
Crazy.
And it wasn't just one way.
Oh.
Archaeologists found Chinese artifacts in Papua going back centuries. Bronze tools, ceramics, like a two-way cultural exchange.
Yeah, like those objects could tell stories if they could talk.
I know, right?
It just makes you think about these hidden connections.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like with every cultural exchange,
Yeah.
there's probably some darker stuff too, right?
Unfortunately, yeah. As trade grew in the 14th century, demand for labor grew. And that included, sadly, the slave trade.
Oh, wow.
There are accounts from a Portuguese sailor, Duarte Barbosa, who described Javanese traders sending enslaved black people to China as like tribute.
It's like this part of history we don't always talk about, but
Yeah.
it's a crucial part of it, you know?
That's absolutely.
Globalization, even back then, wasn't always a good thing.
Yeah. And fast forward to the 17th, 18th centuries, we see another layer, the bird feather trade.
Okay, birds. So we talking like fancy hats and fashion.
You got it. European and American elites, people like Marie Antoinette, loved exotic bird feathers.
Okay.
Birds of paradise,
Yeah.
cassowaries, they were all the rage.
From Papua, right?
Yep. And sadly, it devastated bird populations.
Oh, wow. So something like a fashion trend in Europe could have a huge impact on the environment on the other side of the world.
Exactly. The environmental impact was huge.
I mean, think about it. Between 1904 and 1908, over 155,000 birds of paradise were sold at auction in London alone.
Wow. Yeah, a staggering number.
Crazy.
It really shows how interconnected things are, even back then.
Absolutely. So the Dutch, they were major players in the region, right?
Right.
What happened with them?
Well, as their control weakened in the late 18th century, it opened the door for others, like Chinese and Bugis traders.
Oh, okay.
So there's this power vacuum, and these traders step right in.
So we talking like right out of a history book here.
Yeah, we even have firsthand accounts from this time.
Really?
Thomas Forrest, an Englishman who lived in what's now Manokwari, wrote about Chinese traders sailing from Batavia to Papua, collecting goods to trade in Singapore.
Wow.
They were really shaping the region's economy.
This is around the time Alfred Russel Wallace shows up, right?
You got
The
it.
naturalist.
In 1857, he's in the Aru Islands, south of Papua, and he finds this incredibly diverse community.
Okay.
Chinese, Bugis, Sarem, Javanese Papuan people all living peacefully together.
Wow.
Imagine that. A melting pot of cultures thriving in what was seen as this remote and lawless frontier.
It's like questioning everything we think we know about civilized society.
Right,
And get this, Wallace pointed out they didn't even have any formal government.
right. No police, no courts.
And they were peaceful.
Yeah, he even compared it to the metropolitan policing of his time.
It's like he's kind of critiquing his own society there.
Yeah, like he's saying, look, they're doing just fine without all the rules and regulations we have.
It really shows the resilience of these communities.
Absolutely, they were forging their own path.
I'm curious, when we talk about Chinese Papuan communities, what makes them them?
Well, they've developed their own distinct identities and ways of life that really blend the two cultures.
Yeah.
Like in Saroe, you have terms like Prancis, Pernacansina Sarui, and Hitachi.
Wait, Hitachi?
Yeah, it stands for Hitam Tapitsina, meaning black but Chinese.
I love those nicknames.
Right, it's like this perfect mix of appearances and heritage.
Yeah, it's like a testament to cultural exchange.
And most importantly, they often call themselves Siko, short for Sina Komin, which means Papua Chinese.
Wow, so it's not just fitting into existing categories, they're making their own.
Exactly.
So it goes beyond how they look and what they call themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's woven into their daily lives, their families, even the things they have in their homes.
Right, like those antique plates we talked about.
Yeah.
Those beautifully crafted plates with Chinese motifs. They tell a story.
Okay, so I'm picturing walking into a Papuan home
Mm-hmm.
and seeing these plates on the walls.
Yeah, and they're not just decorations.
Right.
They're treasured, passed down as dowry items, displayed proudly.
Oh, wow, so they're not eating off of them.
Not usually. They're more like symbols of heritage.
Each plate holds a piece of the family history.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder what other cultural treasures are out there.
I know, right?
And speaking of family, we talked about how in some families, kids take their mother's surname instead of their father's.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big difference from traditional Chinese customs.
It is. It shows the influence of Papuan matrilineal customs.
Right. In Papua, lineage often goes through the mother's side.
Exactly. So it's like this blending of traditions right there in their family trees.
Do you have any examples?
Yeah, the Thung family uses the Roai surname, and the Chung family uses Erari.
Wow. It's crazy how surnames, something we don't always think about, can tell you so much about a culture.
Right.
And it makes me think of Yori's Rawai.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great example of this.
He's a well-known figure in Papua, and he proudly uses his mother's surname.
And his father.
Thung Jing Ek, also known as Jakub Thung, was a freedom fighter of Chinese descent.
So he represents both sides.
He does. His story shows how these blended traditions can shape individual lives.
It's like a microcosm of history.
Exactly.
And this isn't just limited to Indonesian Papua, right?
Right, you see Chinese Papuan communities in Papua New Guinea as well.
Really?
Yeah, specifically in Kavieng, in New Ireland province.
It's like this whole cultural tapestry stretching across borders.
And what's interesting there is they distinguish between Old Chinese,
Okay.
who are descendants of immigrants from the late 19th and early 20th centuries,
Okay.
and newer arrivals.
Wow. So different waves of migration.
Mm-hmm. Adding to the cultural mix.
And it makes you wonder about all the different experiences.
Yeah, so many stories to uncover.
And in Papua New Guinea, there are some big names who are Chinese Papuan.
Yeah, we have Sir Julius Chan, a former prime minister.
Wow.
His son, Byron Chan, who's also in politics.
Okay.
Chin Hoi Min, a successful entrepreneur.
Okay.
Robert Sito, a former governor.
Mm-hmm.
Niume Craig-Nalini, who leads the Chinese Association there.
Wow.
And Perry Kwan, a former member of parliament.
It's amazing to see such a diverse range of people.
It really is.
But I'm especially intrigued by Sir Julius Chan and another figure you mentioned, Ian Ling Stuckey.
Oh, yeah.
Their stories seem particularly fascinating, with their political roles and mixed heritage.
Sir Julius Chan's story is remarkable, serving as prime minister twice, with his mixed heritage playing a big part in shaping his career.
And Ian Ling Stuckey, what's his background?
He was the governor of New Ireland province and then a member of parliament.
Okay.
His family background is really interesting. Chinese father, Australian stepfather, and Papuan mother.
Wow, a real mix.
He spent part of his childhood in Australia, but he was drawn back to Papua New Guinea.
It's like he felt a connection to his roots.
Mm-hmm. He became a successful businessman and then went into politics.
Wow, that's quite a journey.
He was initially in the National Alliance Party, but later rejoined the Pangu Party.
Okay, a bit of political drama there.
It shows his connection to the party's leadership and his vision for the country.
It's amazing how these individual stories tie into the bigger picture.
They really do. These journeys provide a glimpse into the richness and complexity of Chinese Papuan culture.
Absolutely. We've gone from ancient trade routes to personal stories, and it's clear this culture is more than just a footnote in history.
It's a testament to resilience, adaptation, and a deep connection to both Chinese and Papuan heritage.
Yeah, it really challenges our assumptions about cultural boundaries. That first part, I don't know about you, but my mind was blown.
It really makes you think.
Yeah, and I keep picturing those antique plates on the walls in those Papuan homes.
Yeah.
You said they were more than just decorations, right?
Right. It's like they represent something deeper about their heritage.
So what's it actually like to have these plates in your everyday life?
Imagine you walk into a home in Surrey,
Okay.
and amongst all the familiar stuff, you see these plates right there on the walls. They're not hidden away. They're like a central part of the decor.
Wow.
Often porcelain with these beautiful designs,
Yeah.
Goldfish, lotus flowers, maybe a dragon swirling through clouds.
Okay, so like classic Chinese motifs.
Woven right into the fabric of their home.
So it's not just decoration, it's symbolic.
Right, it's a conversation starter.
Yeah.
About family history, where they come from.
Okay, and they're not just like static objects either, right?
No, they're passed down through generations, heirlooms.
Wow.
Full of family stories, memories.
Like each plate holds a piece of the family's story.
Exactly. They might be given as dowry gifts.
Oh, right, dowry gifts.
Yeah.
That reminds me of those naming practices we talked about, where some families, the kids, take their mother's surname.
Right, instead of the father's.
Which is different from traditional Chinese customs.
It is. It shows how strong the Papuan matrilineal customs are.
Yeah, in Papua, lineage is often traced through the mother's side.
Exactly. So you see this blending of traditions.
It's like they're literally embodying that cultural fusion.
Right.
And Yori's Rowei, he's a perfect example.
He is.
He uses his mother's surname, right?
Yep, Rowei, representing his Papuan side.
And his father was that freedom fighter.
Thung Jing Ek, also known as Jakub Thung.
Wow, so Yori's really embodies both legacies.
He does, Chinese and Papuan.
It's not just an abstract idea, it's his life.
Exactly. Cultural blends shape real lives.
Yeah, but we've talked a lot about history and culture. What about today? What challenges do these communities face now?
Well, like many minority groups, they face pressure to assimilate, to fit in with the dominant culture.
Right.
In Indonesia, for example, there have been policies encouraging Indonesian language and customs.
So it's like this pressure to be uniform.
Yeah, even if it means losing some of your own culture.
That must be tough for Chinese-Papuans.
It is. It's a complex issue.
But even with that, it seems like they've held on to their traditions.
They have. They're incredibly resilient.
It's inspiring, really.
Yeah, it shows that cultural diversity is a strength.
Absolutely, but resilience can't solve everything.
Right.
What about the future? What needs to happen for these communities to thrive?
One big thing is economic empowerment. Many, especially in rural areas, don't have equal access to education and jobs.
So it's about leveling the playing field.
Exactly. Giving everyone a fair chance.
And that ties into cultural preservation, too.
It does. It's about empowering them to control their own futures.
To contribute their unique talents.
Exactly.
It sounds like there's a lot of work to do.
There is.
But I'm optimistic.
Me too. Their resilience and cultural richness, it's amazing.
I'm really curious to see what's happening now. How are these communities blending their traditions with modern life?
It's amazing to see there's this real push to bridge the past and the future.
So what's happening? What are people doing to preserve their heritage?
Well, a big focus is on documenting and educating,
Okay.
like recording oral histories.
Right. Capturing those stories from the elders.
Exactly, before they're lost.
That's so important.
And preserving traditional crafts like weaving and cooking.
Passing those skills down.
Yeah, making sure they don't disappear.
So it's not just about looking back, it's about the future, too.
Right, it's about empowering the next generation.
To carry those traditions forward.
Yeah, and adapt them to the modern world.
That's amazing.
And some are even pushing to include Chinese-Papuan stories in school curriculums.
That's awesome. So kids can see themselves reflected in their history.
Exactly. It's about making sure these contributions aren't forgotten.
It's like culture isn't static, it's always evolving. And we talked about the economic challenges these communities face.
Right.
What's being done to help?
There are some great organizations working on economic empowerment.
Okay, like what?
Microloan programs to help people start businesses.
So giving them the resources to create their own opportunities.
Exactly. And training programs to teach them business skills.
That's fantastic.
And it's not just about money.
What else?
It's about giving them the confidence and the tools to succeed.
To build a better future.
For themselves and their families.
And it sounds like it's a collaborative effort.
It is. You see Chinese-Papuan organizations working with the government.
Okay.
Even international NGOs getting involved.
It's like everyone's recognizing that it takes a village.
Right. Pooling resources, sharing knowledge.
To make a difference.
And it's not just about outside help.
What else?
These communities are incredibly self-reliant.
Yeah, you can really see that.
They organize cultural festivals,
Yeah.
support local businesses, and create networks to help each other out.
So they're taking control, shaping their own destiny.
Absolutely. They're not waiting for someone else to fix things.
It's inspiring, honestly.
They face so many challenges,
Yeah.
but they've adapted and never lost sight of who they are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
That Chinese-Papuan culture is a testament to human resilience.
Absolutely.
It's about cultural fusion, overcoming obstacles, and building a future that honors both heritage and progress.
It really challenges us to look deeper, to appreciate diversity.
Yeah, and to remember that even in the face of adversity, there's always hope.
You've given us a lot to think about.
It's been a pleasure.
I feel like this could inspire people to explore their own communities,
I hope so.
to uncover those hidden histories, the cultural treasures right under our noses.
There's always something new to discover.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those minds open.
To the wonders of the world.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Chinese-Papuan culture.
Thanks for having me.